Welcome back, everyone. This is KJ4YZI with HamRadioConcepts. It's about that time we're going to check out the new Yaesu FT3D. This was premiered at Dayton Hamvention. It is now for sale, and quite an upgrade to something like my FT2D by Yaesu. I think that they really did listen to some of the quirks with this. I mean, this radio is okay. I kind of like it, but it's got some things that really aggravate me. And I've had this radio 3 times, but the Yaesu FT3D has a lot of improvements, and I think that's the way it should have been now in 2019, is this 3D. So we're going to check this out, and if you haven't, hopefully you're already subscribed, you have notifications turned on. Go back a couple videos on my channel and you'll see how to easily enter to win this radio, thanks to Gigaparts for letting that happen. So if you want to win this brand new radio, go to my video, watch the short clip, enter to win. It's super easy, and at the end of September, you might win this radio here. So let's check out the FT3D and see exactly how this thing is better than the 2D and what makes it really stand out in their line of Fusion handhelds.
HamRadioConcepts.
Alright guys, so let's take a look at this radio, and in this video I'm going to do it like this. I'm going to sort of put it up against as the upgrade to the FT2D, because that's the question I want to answer. A lot of new features in this FT3D and a lot of questions that say, is it worth upgrading? What more do I get if I upgrade? So rather than being an exclusive video on just this, I'll show you how it is a successor to the original 2D, or the predecessor of the 2D. So the first thing I like about this radio is the fact that Yaesu made a good move. They decided to keep all the accessories and batteries and everything compatible from previous models. So for instance, I could take my battery off my FT2D and I could put it right on the 3D. So if I invested in antenna and batteries and camera snapshot speaker microphone, the camera on it, yes, it will fit on the 3D. So you don't have to go out and buy all new accessories. That's one thing I really like about that, because Lord knows nobody likes spending all their money on a Kenwood, you know, or whatever, and then all of a sudden, oh, we're getting a new model and you're going to sell all your old stuff because they don't work with it. Well, not the case with the FT3. So if you look at this side by side, to give you an idea of the two of them, the FT3D is a little bit smaller in size, and that's okay. The screen is smaller in size, and that's okay, because the screen is now a more responsive color touchscreen. So I will take, and I'll show you the example of what it looks like, I will take a better color screen that may be a tad bit smaller than the 2D. The 2D, the screen on this was really kind of, you had to like mash it sometimes, and it was a little hard to see in high light and all that. But the 3D, they definitely changed it to where if you're out in the direct sunlight, you're in a lighted room, it's a lot easier to see. So the buttons are about in the same place. They do say that they upgraded the speaker, and we're going to find out at the end of this video, is this speaker the answer to why I kind of dislike the 2D? Because I want a louder speaker. I want something that's louder when I'm in the vehicle. And it seems, I've had 3 of these 2DRs, and it seems that it's not me, it's the speaker. It was a waterproof design, but it hampers. And my ID51 I used to have, the handhelds, were all the same way. Yeah, it's submersible, great, but the speaker, volume really suffers from that. So let's see if they did make a better sounding, higher audio output speaker. So the same dual, channel select up here and volume dual split knob on the top exists. The same SMA exists on the top. If you look at the left side, they changed a little bit of the ergonomics with the, let's look at it this way, with the PTT button. I guess they took some of the FT70, whereas this is like more of a raised or sticking out kind of PTT button. And people said they wanted that because you could see it or feel it with gloves rather than, trying to do it if you're not looking at it. And to me, that didn't bother me. I found the 2DR button just fine. But they took a little bit of the FT70, a little bit of the 2DR, and they put it together. So on the right side, I did hear Yaesu say that they kind of changed up the rubber grommets here, and that wasn't really a problem for me either. I guess you have 2 separate grommets. The one here on the 2D you had, if you wanted the data port, you had to peel up the mic speaker rubber waterproofing grommet here, and the SD cards on the top, and then your external DC on the bottom. That wasn't a problem for me, but I guess they changed it so where your external DC and your mic speakers on the bottom, and your data and micro SD is on the top. Not a big problem for me, but hey, I enjoy the fact that they wanted to just keep in. They didn't just throw a new screen in an old radio. They did make changes. GPS is still mounted on the top, and it does lock in my house in a block home, so it takes about 20-30 seconds, I think, inside, and it locked up just fine. So we're going to put the battery, let me take my FT2D battery off here and put it back on my 2D. And then we're going to put the 3D battery on. I'm going to turn it on and show you what the screen looks like, because again, the question that everybody had was, well, okay, is this thing really worth me upgrading? Well, let's find out. Let's turn them both on. Okay. And let me turn the squelch down, or the volume down on this one, so I was playing around with it for a second. Okay, let's do that. So here is both of them together, okay? Now if you could see the difference between the monochrome gray screen over here and the color screen. I had the contrast down a little bit on the 2D, but let me give you a close-up here to show you. Okay, that's what the screen would look like on the 2D, okay? State of the art back then when it came out, you know, with the touch screen, it was awesome. But then look at this. Doesn't it look a lot cooler, a lot cleaner, a lot easier to see, right? So another good thing that I like about this, before I get into the other features, is that it's not like learning a whole new radio. That bothers me a lot when, you know, and that's primarily the China market, the DMR market. Every radio's got its own way of doing it. But the Yaesu and the ICOM, I could walk through this radio right now because I'm familiar with a 2D. And I could walk through a ICOM radio like a 5100 and a 7100 and a 51 because they're kind of the same. But then you got like the DMRs, you got an Anytone, you got a Bofeng, you got a Luance, and every one of them is different. So I like the fact that they didn't change the menu structure of this radio. But again, most notably is the screen, okay? But as I said, the screen on the 2D versus the 3D. The 3D is a lot more responsive. You can use it with gloves. I guess that's the difference between resistive and capacitive. And it's more like an iPhone screen than it is, you know, an old FT 2D screen. So let's give you a couple specs real quick to give you an idea. Dual band, VHF, UHF, 2 independent receivers here. And I guess I'm on APRS on my 2DR. Let me turn that off. Here, beaconing with no antenna. So 2 independent receivers, VHF, UHF. You can have VHF on the top, UHF on the bottom, both VHF, both UHF. Wideband receive from 0.5 kilohertz to 999 megahertz. FM broadcast, marine band, all kinds of stuff you can listen to, GMRS, but you can only transmit in the ham bands, okay? Another thing right away that I like is the fact that they added Bluetooth. So if I go into here, I'll show you a second. They added Bluetooth to this. Now, let me show you the menus here. So there's the menu, the function menu, which exists on the 2DR, but it's just 2 pages now because of a little bit of a smaller screen. No problem. And if I hold display here, I can go into the, you know, other menu here, which is the same on the 2D, but it looks a lot better, doesn't it, with the icons and the color screen, and a lot easier to see. But the Bluetooth, so if I go into option, there's my Bluetooth option. Now I can pair it with a Yaesu is actually manufacturing a Bluetooth earpiece, but it will also pair, from what I read, to other devices, Plantronics and whatever kind of Bluetooth. So you can have that in your ear and not walk around like the guy did back in the day with the Nextel, where everybody in the grocery store could hear this guy and what he's talking about. Stick the Bluetooth in your ear. That way you can talk to people and nobody has to listen to your conversation. Or you're out in the field, you got 2 hands and you want to have it in your ear without having to hold the radio. Bluetooth is an awesome idea. Okay, APRS exists in here, so you still have, thanks to Yaesu, it's still a manufacturer that's making radios with APRS in them. APRS is still a very viable function and feature in ham radio. I'm not sure why everybody is not using it. They think it's just watching some guy drive to the store. That's not what it was designed for. APRS is a tactical display and exchange of information. And being that you have APRS built into this where you can beacon, you can run this externally, like with my mobile linked TNC over here. I could take this, plug it into this radio, and now have all my APRS mapping and stuff and messaging on a tablet or cell phone. But in the meantime, you do get your APRS right on the radio. It decodes the packets and everything on here, shows you the distance from them on the GPS. All the APRS functionality is still in here, and you cannot access the TNC like you would on a Kenwood. I guess a lot of people still want to directly tie right into that TNC. Well, no, you can't. The TNC is built in for pretty much a APRS packet modem, and that's what it'll do in here. So you can't run a cable from this to your laptop and use it as a TNC for packet direct into the radio. But not a problem. None of the other older Yaesus did that, so not a problem. With the Bluetooth function, we also talked about, let me show you another example of a good function that they upgraded on here. Let's look at the scope, okay? So here is, let me put an antenna on this thing real quick. I'm just using I think this is my antenna here. So let's look at the scope here for a second. Check it out. So it's a real-time band scope that you can see, action and a wider selection of the frequency you're on to see where the action is. And touchscreen, you can actually see something over here and tap on it, and it will put you on the scope where the action is. So great for finding nearby signals or other stations that are around you that you didn't know were there. Now, it's a little noisy in here because of some electronics. That's why the scope's going up and down. But let me show you what the scope looked like on the 2. It really wasn't that, fancy and impressive. So they did make an improvement on the scope on the 3D. So if I go here and I go to scope, here's what the scope looked like on the 2D, right? So that's a FM radio station, but you kind of see it was nothing to write home about it. Yeah, you would be able to use it, but that's kind of, I think the scope on a 3D is looking a lot more like a 991 scope would. Something a little more usable if you didn't have so much noise in your house like I do. That's why it's all showing up with the noise there. And you could take this and change it, see, full 79 channels wide, so that's a wider swath of the band, or you can go real narrow like this to 19 channels. Okay, so the band scope, definitely for those out there looking for signals, search and rescue, or people just trying to find an adjacent signal or a repeater that's close by, or people on Simplex, field day, club events, whatever. That may do well to find those people that are hiding from you. Oh man, let's go to this channel. He won't find us. Well, you got a band scope. I'll find you. But to go further from a band scope, there's another option they added here called the Club Channel Activity Monitor. And if you go into here, it's labeled CAM, C-A-M. If you go into CAM, now the way this works, and I don't have this set up, but the way this works is you can actually make 10 groups, up to 10 groups with up to 5 channels in each group. And what will happen is you get assigned those, okay, I got my simplex frequencies, I got the repeaters around me, I got, whatever frequencies. And as they come up, it'll monitor those and show you, oh, look, group 2, this frequency here is active. So you can see, okay, I'm not hearing anything on my local repeater. But look, there's another repeater close by that's got a lot of action, and you could tap on it and it'll put you right on that frequency. So you could set this up with, different groups. And it makes it, how do I put it? I think, and we're still beaconing over here on APRS. Let me turn this off. So it kind of, I think, usable for finding people to talk to. Who wants to have a radio like this sitting on your desk or out in the field, and you're like, man, where is everybody at? And you're turning the dial. Just turn on the CAM, or the Club Channel Activity Monitor, and you can see multiple frequencies at one time, and in a graph where you can tap on the graph and see, okay, people are really on this repeater. Maybe there's a net going on all of a sudden. You didn't know it. You can tap on the graph and take you right over to there, and you'll have people to talk to. So another thing I want to mention, let's check this out for a second, because you have your analog, your C4FM, your APRS, your Bluetooth, digital group monitor. But one thing that we have on here that is in the previous radios is Wires X. Now, Wires X exists through a repeater. You cannot do Wires X through a hotspot. But what is new about this that is not in the past, there's a way to make this a portable node where you can access the Wires X network with nothing more than a connectivity kit, which has a cable that goes in the data port. And you can plug it in USB in your computer with the Wires X software and now operate the Wires X right from your radio with no HRI 200 needed. That is a big plus because I'm not a real fan of buying that HRI 200 and tying up a radio to make it a digital node in my house. Now what I read was also the newest firmware to the 2DR will allow you to do the same thing if you have the latest firmware. But that's pretty cool where you can just connect this. I think it's the SCU39, which is the 2D connection kit, which also works with the 3D. And you can connect it here and make this a portable node in a hotel room, plugged into your laptop on the hotel's Wi-Fi, at an airport, wherever, and access right through this radio Wires X functionality. So then we could take this camera speaker mic that nobody wants to use and take pictures and access Wires X directly through that cable through my laptop. That's a pretty neat feature. And I might upgrade to firmware on my FT2D to give me that option in case I ever decide to use it. I don't have the cable to show you that. But no longer do you need the FT or the HRI 100 or HRI 200 box with this, you know, to do it and to remote into it. You know, you don't have to take your FTM 400, transmit into this with an HRI 200, and I'll have all this stuff on your desk. You can do it with a USB cable from here right to the laptop. That's a really good feature, a really good upgrade that they did to get more people on Wires X. Because you're begging to see it, I'm going to take a picture because I want to take a picture with this camera mic and see what it looks like. Here we go. Ready? Oh, boom. Look at that. Color image. So the resolution is not HD or iPhone quality. And here's the next question. I'm going to answer it for you right now, so don't even bother commenting. I could take pictures with my iPhone and send them across the world. Okay. Can you take a picture with a walkie-talkie when your iPhone doesn't work? I mean, I think that's, you know, you put the SD card in here, take all kinds of pictures, put the SD card in your computer, or you can send it right from here. Watch this. Boom. There we go. All right. So another thing, check this out. I'll show you an example of how this differs from the FT2D because you may say, well, I can do that in my FT2D. Well, I could too, and that's the whole reason I bought the camera mic. But look at the quality difference. Look at this. Nothing to write home about, believe me. I mean, hey, it was state-of-the-art back then, but watch this. That's what you're getting on a 2D, right? Monochrome, you know, but hey, that's better than nothing because on the 1D, you couldn't even preview it. You just had to hope you got the good picture. But you can see the difference already on going to a 3D versus a 2D. All right, I'm going to take a picture of my camera mic here on my 2D and send it to the 3D and check it out. Here we go. We will send. There we go. Okay, so that is transmitting, indicated in the red light. And you can see here, that just received. What did that take, 8 seconds? There it is. My ugly face. Let's do it again. We'll count how long it takes. Ready? Here we go. Ready? Let's get something better than my face. Okay, here we go. Save that memory card and send. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All right, 12 seconds. And I bet you I could up the quality. I forget what the quality is set at. There you go. There's a picture of the FT3 that I'm showing you here that I took a picture of. And again, if you put it in the computer, it'll be a little better to see. But imagine when you're sending pictures from 2DR to 2DR and it's black and white. This makes it a lot easier. I kind of like that. Okay, so I really want to test the speaker because that's where I want to compare them right here because that's where I suffer on this 2D is this speaker. No, I'm not hard of hearing, but it's not nearly as loud as some of the other radios. I've had Bofengs that were louder. Any tone that I have is absolutely destructively loud. I mean, and then this thing has always been quiet. So I want to see what happens. We're gonna first turn up the 2D all the way. And you won't be able to tell, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to put, let me hear it.
Sometimes you look something up, and I was sworn let me double check that. I'm almost positive. No, I think Brian was the quarterback, and then because I think after the fourth.
And I just got an FM broadcast. Let me turn this one up here, same channel.
That sounds right. We did what we do last year. I thought it was a little bit later last year.
It was 28-26.
Oh no.
It was 2026. Ended on a
It's like tinny. It's not as loud. I mean, on my desk, the 2DR sounds fine. When I'm in the vehicle, it's not loud enough. But I'm going to put this mic right here and let you listen. 2DR.
They're a lot better than Texas A&M, and the fact that A&M gave them a battle last year tells me Clemson coming to play.
It was Kelly Bryant. I'm looking right now.
Huh?
It was Kelly Bryant.
I appreciate that.
That's for your other shows.
That's the 2D. Let me put the 3D here. It's a little more tinny. It's not as loud.
Because we're a ton of mistakes.
It is not the. Believe me when I tell you, it is not the first mistake I made. It won't be the last, unfortunately. But hopefully, the most important fact is the pick.
That's right.
I do think that Clemson is going to take
It really sounds tight and tinny. I thought it would be, a lot better, but unfortunately,
You know where I'm going. You don't even have to ask.
No.
What do I do when Tom
the 2DR is a lot
You
louder.
bet him, and you bet him hard.
This is one of those trends. It's like riding a streak in MLB. Riding one of those totals. You don't think about that.
Man, so unfortunately, I can't say that speaker's that much louder or new and improved. It actually sounds a little bit, the 2DR sounds a little more bassy than the 3DR. So I don't know. I'm not convinced on the speaker yet. If you're after that, if you're in the same boat as I am and you had that real hard to hear speaker and you want something really louder, well, unfortunately, I'm going to tell you, this one doesn't sound any louder than this one. In fact, the 2DR, I think, with the bigger case is a little more bassy. That's just my assumption, but you can make up your own decision. Maybe you're not in a loud environment. Totally fine in the house. Totally fine walking down the road. But if you're out on the beach and you got it on your belt clip and you're walking and it's windy, you're not going to hear it real well. So that's one thing to consider there. So there you go, guys. Not much of an exclusive on this, but maybe you have never touched a FT2DR before. Well, it's still a decent radio. It's got APRS. You can use the camera mic. It's powerful. It's got a wideband receive. But the 3DR, I think, adds the features that the 2D should have had. Color screen, Bluetooth. That scope is better. And the Club Channel Activity Monitor, really cool feature. It's got the digital group ID. It's got the new latest firmware and design where you don't have to have an HRI 200 or anything. You can access Wires X directly with this with a SCU39 cable, and that's an external accessory available for purchase from your favorite dealer. But thanks for Gigaparts for letting me borrow this, and thanks for Gigaparts for offering up the giveaway with all the stuff and the new FT3DR by Yaesu. More videos on the way. We've got all kinds of stuff out there working. I just wanted to show this one and check out the video. When you go back to my videos, subscribe, turn on notifications, and leave your comment there and enter to win this radio right here. 7.3, the FT3D by Yaesu. KJ4, YZI.